Hey guys, in this video what we're going to do is we're going to cover how to run a after repair value comp, right? So this is to put the full value on the property and what it's worth once it's been repaired. In a subsequent video we're also going to do the rental comp, but for this one we're really just trying to find the most comparable properties to ours, you know, going and looking at all the characteristics that would be the same, right? So your bed and bath, the size of the property, the style of the property, what kind of foundation it's been built on, the vicinity to the properties that you're comping, year build, right? So you're trying to find the 3 or 4 most similar properties to yours, and we're just going to kind of go through HAR in this video and matrix and show you how we look at all the different variables when we're deriving our after repair value. Okay, so hope you enjoy.
Hey guys, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump over to HAR, which is the Houston Association of Realtors. Obviously, it's going to depend what market you're in. There's a bunch of different MLSs. We are based, or Rightway is based in Houston, so we are using HAR, which is the Houston Association of Realtors. So if you're in San Antonio or Dallas or another market, you're going to have a MLS that's specific to your area, right? Doesn't mean that you can't go further out with coverage, but you're definitely going to want to be using your local MLS. A lot of the MLSs nowadays are migrating more towards the matrix software. So that's what we're here on in Houston. So we are entering the matrix, so to speak, to run our comparables. So for you Rightway guys, now you're on HAR. You're going to be logging in, and you're going to be clicking here to enter the matrix. So the first thing that you really want to do is you want to be seeing all the characteristics of the subject property that you're running your comps on. So the way that we're going to do that is we are going to pull up the tax roll to verify the characteristics of that house, right? You can also use your appraisal district, but on this we're going to be using the internal tax system called Realist to find out our property. So I'm just going to pull up a property that we currently have under contract. This video is created for your after repair value comps. There is 2 types of comps where we would run on a property. One is the after repair value and one is the rental value. So the following video is going to be more of a rental check or a rental value check, and this one is on your after repair value. So let me just cover that again. You are at this top bar up here, and you are going to public records because the tax is public record, and you are clicking on the realist tax. Okay, and that's going to pop this up for you. So now what I want to do is I want to take my address. This address is 10902 Hoffer. And sometimes you have to choose, which one is which, but I'm pulling this one up. It pops straight up. So this first characteristic is going to tell you how many bedrooms the property has, how many square footage the property has, how big is the lot. This property is actually listed at $100,000. We bought it below listing, and actually what we did on this one was it was off market. We contracted it, and then for some reason the realtor decided to put it online. So it'll still show here if it's off market. Every single property in Houston will have a tax roll on it. It's how they figure out how much tax they're paying and what the property is valued at. So they know how to calculate the taxes. This property has 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. It was listed, yesterday. So this is 12/02/20. Today we're at 12/03. And this house was built in 1958. The type here is going to tell you what type of property it is. So this property is SFR, which means single family residential. But if you had a condo or a townhome or a manufactured home or a lot or anything commercial, it's going to be listed on here. So just get familiar with these codes, what the single family code is, what the multifamily code is, lot, manufactured home, etc. So primarily what we're dealing in is single family. So this one is a single family residential. Okay. So just really learn how to read these realist tax rolls so that it's going to make comparing your other comps a lot easier. So this is your owner information, right? This is who owns the subject property you're going to make an offer on, you're going to run your comps on. So this one is owned by Sue Rightly. It's convenient. Sounds like right way. And this tells you if the owner occupies the property, right? So she does. She owns the property. Um, a lot of times, what you're going to see is if you're trying to skip trace the seller, is that if they're not owner occupying the property, their mailing address is going to be here in this section, right? So if you're going to contact them by letter or just to know. So if you're dealing with the homeowner, what's a good way to verify that they're the correct person you're talking to is by looking to see, are you talking to a Sue, right? If it's a completely different name, you're going to want to ask them, who is Sue Rightly? Who is she to this property? Who has the right to sell the property, essentially? Because we have had occasions where somebody who does not have the authority tries to sell the property, and then it's going to get really confusing when it goes to title. So if you're communicating with somebody already before you're running the comp, just verify here that that's the right person. Moving down from the owner information, now we're going to go on to the location information. So this has to do with where the property is situated. So this is very important. Obviously, the subdivision, this property sits in East Ridge Terrace. This is going to tell you your school district name, right? This is important when you run comps. You do not want to be running comps in a different school district. This is Pasadena School District. Any other information you want. You're also looking for the actual address, right? So the way that a property works is your actual address is what you call the legal description. It's right. It's what the post office uses. It's how the property is listed in the records. So your 10902 Hoffer is actually just the address that it's known as. So this is all where it sits, right? This helps with the geography of it. So it's going to have your subdivision name here, but it's going to tell you what lot and what block it sits on within that subdivision. Okay, so this is going to be going on your contract, but we're running comps on the as known address. I wouldn't worry too much about this percentage improved and tax area and water district for running comps, but we can touch base on the percentage improved details a little bit later on. Now, when you come down to the assessment and tax, this is not what the house is going to comp out at, right? This is basically what Harris County is determining what this property is worth so they know how much to send you for tax every year. So Harris County, they are looking at the total value, total assessed value, right? So if it was just a lot, you're going to have the land value only. But we have the land and the market value, right, of the actual structure of the property, and that's going to give you your total for 2020. Now your tax is going to be broken down for a rate, right, a percentage rate. So this is your total estimated tax rate. So this is 2.74% of your total value, which equates to $3,100 a year. It might also give you a good indication that a seller is motivated to sell because they their tax has gone up substantially. Obviously, if you're in a lower income neighborhood, they're not gonna appreciate a big tax hike, right? They're not gonna want to pay that. So now we're going down to the characteristics of the property. So we have who the owner is, we have where it's situated, we have the tax information and the legal description, right? We have all the tax info, and now this is probably the most important section when you're running comps. The reason is because it's going to tell you the characteristics of the property, and you're going to be wanting to use these when you run your comps. So you're looking down at everything down here and finding out what is important to take note for when you're running your comps. Right? So the square footage is 1,064. It has one building on the property. It is single family. The lot is 7,940 square feet. It's got 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. It's got central air, central heat. It's got a attached frame garage. So this is really important when you're looking at comps. You want to see if they have a garage. It's got the garage square feet if you needed to convert that garage to increase the value of your comps. It sits on a slab and it's got a vinyl exterior, right? Aluminum vinyl exterior. It was built in 1958. So now we know a little bit of information. I'm just going to keep this realist page up because I'm going to keep referring back to this just to verify that I'm getting that right. Okay, so keep your realist up here, come back to matrix. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to, right, these are all the different types of stuff you can search. We will cover these in other videos and how to use these, but right now we're doing single family comps only. So we're doing single family, and then what we're going to do is we're going to choose quick. Classic just gives you some more information to put into, but you're running numerous comps a day with the goal of looking at a couple of them that are closest to what we think can be make a deal. So we're going to click on single family, and now we're just kind of working backwards. We're working to see how many of the closest properties to my subject property can I pull up and what's their value. Another little trick that I've learned, these are all the status of the property, right? So sold is automatically clicked, and sold is really the only ones you can use to comp. Reason being is that's a finite number, right? The property sold for that much specifically, therefore I can use it as a comparable. It's very tough for me to use an active as a comparable or an option pending because we don't know what the final number is going to be when they sell. So we really have to use sold. But what I am going to do is I'm going to mark these for my initial comps because the investor is going to be curious to what they're competing with. But what I mean by that is if they were listing a property for 200,000, or they're hoping to list a property for 200,000, well, they're going to want to double check that there's not some listed in the same condition, very good at 170. Because if they list it for 200, who's going to buy or who's going to rent their house if it was a rental. So this is more just for competition and to rule out any negative connotations of this area for the investor. First of all, what I'm going to see is how many comps we're pulling up. I am not going to really get heavily into these characteristics to start with. I want to kind of familiarize myself with the area and see what kind of movement we're having in that area. So this is your map search. This is where you're going to be putting in your address and how far from your map. The ideal distance and time, you might want to write this down and kind of get to know this, is half a mile out from your property it's really within 180 days. So now we're going to put our property in, which is 10902 Hoffer, and let's see how many results we pull up. So we have 27 matches here. If we had, a ton of matches, I would probably start refining it. But let's look and see what we have. So the quickest way to do that is to go to your map. And this is our radius, right? This is a half-mile radius from our property. So this is where most realtors get it drastically wrong when they're running their comps. What they're going to do is they're going to take everything within this radius. The real issue with taking everything within this radius is when you cross over major roads, you are crossing into a whole different area, right? It could be a different school zone, could be a different subdivision. These houses might be selling for a lot higher or for a lot less. So I am trying to stick without using any major roads within this section, okay, to run this property, right? To start with, I'm actually not going to cross over this road here at Kings Point, and I'm not going to go north of this street, and I'm not going to go west of this street, okay? So let's see what we have. So I'm gonna delete this shape. So anytime you want to delete a shape, you just go to the center and delete it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to freehand this, and I'm going to take this whole little subdivision in here. Now you're going to see all of the other ones disappear. I'm just focused on these properties. Okay. So now what I want to do is I'm confident on the area. I know that my properties here, all these properties are roughly in the same vicinity. If an appraiser comes, these will definitely all be used for the appraisal to see the value of the comp. So now I'm going to hit results. So here's what I'm working with. Now, the first thing that stands out to me is the year built. So when is my property built? Let's go back here, 1958. Kind of as a general rule of thumb, we use about a 12-year plus to minus ratio. So I am selecting my year builds, right? And if you see, a lot of these are built in 1958. So you know they were built at the same time. The subdivision was constructed at the same time. Later on in the 80s and the 90s, they came and they built new houses. But we can't use these because you can't comp a 1958 property with a 1990 property. Right? You have a variety of them here. You have an active. These are your status again. A means active. OP means option pending. P means pending. And then these are your souls. Okay. So I'm going to refine this. And it's going to, or narrow, and it's going to break these down for me. Right. So what am I? I am a 3-1 or am I a 3-2? So I am a 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom at 1,064 square feet. So I'm going to actually flip through all of these properties to see what we're working with. This one here is listed. It's been listed here. You'll see DOM. That's days on market. This is very critical. Always check out your days on market. I'm going to see what this one we're competing with is like. So this is basically, very similar house to ours. It's a little bit bigger at 1,336 square feet. Built in 1958. Same subdivision. Lot size is roughly the same. Ours is 7940. This lot size is 8250. And let's see the quality of the house. So it looks pretty good, right? They've put can lighting in there. They've put new flooring. It's hard to tell right here if they've done new windows. Let's flip through. We have 14 pictures of this property. They've put new cabinetry in there. This is probably prefab cabinetry. They've put a granite in there. They've put new appliances. It actually looks like on this one they kept the original windows, so they did not replace the windows. So there's a lot of variables when you're running comps, and even things down to, are the houses in that area selling with old windows or new windows? If they're all old windows, I wouldn't necessarily put in there to replace them because you know what it sells for, right? You might not necessarily get that value back out. So I'm taking plenty of notes on the quality of this repair. Yep, definitely old to the original windows. Some new fixtures, probably new doors, new vanity. This might be an extension. Is this their? Oh, this is their garage. Wow. So they fixed up their garage. Okay, so overall, pretty decent rehab. Okay, now I'm going to flip to the next one. Remember, this one's active at 185. It's been active for 19 days. Down here, you can get some of your Republic or your realtor remarks, a little bit about the property, updated house, updated kitchen and bathroom, kitchen cabinets, granite countertops, appliances, doors, baseboards, laminate flooring. I'll tell you what's been done. You also want to be checking, is this sitting on the same foundation as yours is? That's a very important one. This is on a slab foundation, and you want to be looking at the exterior to make sure you're not using brick houses to comp a frame house. So we're good to go on this one. This house is very similar to our property. We don't have any exterior shots from here. One way you can just get an exterior shot is just copy your address. Right? You're going to shoot it over. And you're going to look at the curb appeal compared to yours. Make sure the style of the property is the same as your property. This does look the same. One negative, you're always looking for negatives on this one, is it's very close to a busy road. That's one negative side of it. In fact, this property, they didn't put any exterior shots in the listing. Here you can see when this photo was taken, 2020. So you'd want to see this property might still need a new roof. Just by looking at here, and if they didn't paint the exterior, they've done themselves a disservice, which kind of leads me to believe maybe they didn't, purely because they did not put any shots on there. Okay. Let's actually, just for argument's sake, when you are starting your comp, I should have done that to start with. I would always pull it up on Google Maps. If you haven't already been to the property, obviously, but you do want to be running your comparable before you head to the property. It's going to give you a much clearer idea of what you're going to need to take to put into that property. And everything is numbers based. So if you already have an idea that all the properties have granite, they all have new windows. When you're going to the house and you're using your repair estimate, it's going to be a lot easier to insert your repair estimate for that property, right? You're not just kind of doing it on the fly saying, oh, this needs granite, these needs new windows. Well, you don't actually know that because you haven't run the comps and you haven't seen what the quality of the houses are selling in that area. So always run your comparables before you go to the house and to make a decision how close you are and if it's worthwhile. If you're going 45 minutes out to look at a house and it's completely different, it's not a deal, well, you've just wasted a couple hours of your day looking at a not a good lead, right? So I'm looking at this house compared to the other ones. This is actually, it's a fairly decent looking house, cute little house. You can tell it's the vinyl siding, very traditional. Looking around the neighborhood to see if it stands out from any of the houses. You never, the one house which is, drastically oversized or just looks funky is always going to be a negative property. It can be cute. This probably also needs a new roof. Just kind of looking. So this is the listed one for 185. This is what you would be competing with. So you're a little bit smaller, but you when you go look at this property, I would drive by this property to see if they updated the exterior and see if they updated the roof. So this, now that I repaired those or refined those four, I can actually just click through each one here. Now, funny enough, this is our property. So because we are option pending on this property, the realtor actually listed it. So this is let's use this to look at our property. So obviously our garage needs to be done. She's showing us all the negatives. So these are the original hardwoods. So I'm going to be looking at my comps and seeing if the ones that sold the highest, they have the original hardwoods or have they replaced all the floor. Because this doesn't look too bad condition. You might be able to go in there and refinish and keep this flooring. Okay. So this is ours. So obviously we can't use that. This is pending, right? So this is interesting. This is the exact same square footage as ours, or this is actually smaller than ours, and sold, probably sold for 175. You don't actually know the full sales price until it sells. That's why you can't use these pendings as an actual firm comp, because sometimes they would have listed it for 175, but they would have taken a lower offer. So what I do, honestly, if I need this comp, if this comp is important to me to derive my ARV, I would call the listing agent. So Ernesto Perez. Normally their cell phone is going to be right here. I would call them and ask them when it's expected to close. And if they're willing to divulge what the price sold for, that would be great, right? You can pretty much use that as a comp. It's going to close, when it's going to close, when you can actually use it. But I'm pretty confident that this is closing at 175 because it had such low days on market. Okay, now let's look. This is a great comp for us. Let's look and see how they did it. Not a new roof. It's a little bit of weathering here, but it still looks like it's probably good. Has the one garage like us. We would have to address our driveway. Looks like they painted the vinyl exterior, and you can tell just by here it's a slab. We will verify that, but you can tell by just looking it's a slab. So all in all, this is right. It's kind of the same house as ours, so to speak. Got some landscaping. All right, so this is interesting. Sold for 175, but these are not new cabinets. These are old, the original cabinets. They've just repainted these, refinished and repainted, put new fixtures on there, kept them. These countertops, they actually look, you see how you have a little bit of almost like chipboard here. These are not granite countertops, so they're not high end. They're not very nice. This tile the same, right? This might be just the tile that was in there, which was cleaned up, and they added a backsplash. Yep, you see they kept this hardwood floor. They just restained this floor. So if we're using ours to compare, we would do the same. They probably added in this crown molding, repainted the interior. It's hard to tell right now if these windows are new windows. Looks like they put a new vanity. This does look like it's probably granite. It's kind of a outdated surround. They probably did put this in there, but in all honesty, this house is just very basic. A lot of it is original. This is nice. We do not have this. Looks like they actually put some can lighting. This is probably their unique selling point, which made the house sell at 175 so quickly. Just by first glance, too, the condenser actually looks pretty old. Looks like a dated condenser for your AC. It's kind of hard to tell with the electrical box, but it looks fairly new. So yeah, that's definitely why this house sold. Although the interior doesn't look, you know, dramatically improved. The AC is a little bit old. The roof obviously shows some weathering. This, this overhang is what sold the property. Okay, so that is a very good comp for us to use. And I'm pretty sure it's going for 175. Here's another one. This one sold for a lot less, 145, 1232. Okay, so actually this sold fast and it sold above market price. So this is what it was listed at. It was listed at 145, but actually it sold very quickly at 150. Right. When you go back here, if you go back to agent single line, it's going to list them out again. So this is Newton Street. So on Newton, you're going to see that it's sold for 150. Right. But it was actually listed at 145. So it sold above the listing price. And it sold very fast. So let's see what the condition of this one is. It says a carport, but no garage. Either the garage was originally there and converted. So ours does have a better, it doesn't have a carport, but it does have a garage. So it's not in bad shape. It looks like it was still occupied. It's probably not one that was just flipped. Those might be the original hardwoods. They probably are. You can just see it was well kept. Again, here we go. This is Formica. This is not a good countertop. It's very cheap. Right, and these are the original cabinetries. It also has old appliances. Carpet looks weathered or old. It's got these dated moldings up here. It probably needs a new interior paint. Bathroom again is just original. You saw in the one that sold at 175, that vanity was pretty much brand new. They had modernized it a lot. So it is the original hardwood. The way that you can tell it's the original hardwood is if it's these narrow slats, right? Over time too, you'll be able to tell just by the way that it shines, right? If it's a vinyl or a tile, you'll be able to discern that pretty quickly. Again, dated bathroom, old wallpaper, definitely need updating. And they have a back deck too. Again, you can tell from here the roof is older. So this is a little bit, more confidence inspiring. Just to kind of let you in on this one, we were hoping that the ARV would be around 170, 175. If this one sold for 145 and it was completely fixed up, that'd be a little bit worrying, right? But we can tell that this is mainly original, so they do need to put work in there to modernize it. Just looking from the exterior too, looks like the condensers are probably a little bit dated. So we don't have a ton of comps here. That's something that you're going to have to do a lot of detective work to figure out. The best one that we have here is 175. It's exactly, it's right exactly almost the same square footage of ours. It took 5 days to sell. It's a 3-1 just like ours. 1958. It puts us at 169 a square foot. I would definitely be calling that agent to kind of rack his brain. So what I'm going to do here, because we're in the right area, instead of expanding our area, I'm going to go back a little bit. You can go back on your time. It doesn't mean you can't use it as your comp, but obviously if you're wholesaling this property, you're going to want to be filling your investor with confidence of what it's going to sell for, right? So the further you have to go back, it's a little bit more of a negative. So I'm going to go back to 365 here. I'm going to keep my criteria the same. Okay, so now I have 14 matches. If I had a ton of matches here, I'm going to want to narrow those down, and I'm going to narrow those down with this property information sheet, right? So just kind of to show you how we're doing it, I'm going to go from 1,400 square feet. Mine is 1,000. I'm going to go about 400 square feet above. Beds, I don't want any 2 beds, right? I'm going to go 3 plus, just see what we find. Lot size, if your house is on a big lot or small lot and big ones, just kind of keep that in mind. Bathrooms, so we know ours is a 1, so I'm going to go 1 plus. Obviously, it's going to have at least 1 bathroom. And the way that you're doing it is you're putting a plus or a minus. So we know, again, let's go over to our wheel list, that we're 1958. So we don't want new builds. I'm going to go roughly 12 years above or below. So on this one, I'm going to go to 1970, and I'm going to go below. 1970 and below. We are a 1-story. You definitely want to be, if you can, find them with the same story. So let's do 1 story. Now let's see, has that refined me some? Yep, I've got down to 5. Again, we haven't found too much more. So we have one really good comp, okay? So you can tell sometimes it gets a little bit difficult to do. We're going to pull in this section here. We're going to see if you have similar findings here with the size, the year built, and if they were developed at the same time. So I'm going to take away this shape, get this whole little section in here. Now you see I found some more here. We have a 120s, 180, 184, 190. Let's see what these show. They're a little bit newer, but not drastically. Let's pick out, we've already run some of these. Let's pick out this one here. This has an extra bedroom. This might just be a facade, like the brick. Let's have a look at the characteristics of this property. You see here, so this is the actual exterior is a brick exterior. It is on a slab, so it's not a great comp for us. But let's just see what kind of condition this sold in at 174. But it was good condition. They did a much better rehab on this one than the other 175. Just from outset, this is a tile. I put granite countertops in here. A little bit of a funky layout for the kitchen. You're always going to want to be looking at your layout compared to the others. You got your raised ceilings, kind of dated appliances, not brand new. And carpet, and actually did the windows in this one, I believe so. Okay, so pretty decent rehab. Interesting walk-in. It's kind of dirty, rustic, I guess. Nice lot. They actually put a new fence in here. New AC. This is siding. New roof. Interesting color scheme, but this sold fast. It sold in 3 days on the market. It's listed for 174. Did it go above? It did. This actually sold for 180. So things in the area are selling very fast for this one, right? When they're repaired, but they are there's not a ton of comps, right? Which is a good one for an example. Here's one which sold in our subdivisions for $95,000. It took 85 days to sell, right? You can pretty much bet that this house is going to need a lot of work, right? This one right here. Because if it was sold that cheap, it would sell pretty fast. So let's see how bad this is compared to ours. And we're hoping it's bad, right? Because great neighborhood on a beautiful tree-lined street, perfect home, needs TLC, right? So now you can be pretty confident. Sold for $95,000. Took a long time to close. New roof. Looks like maybe a conversion. They got rid of the garage door. Very dated. See how dirty those cabinets are? Just kind of a quick note. You can never qualify this as a swimming pool when you're doing comps, these overgrown swimming pools. If it has a pool, it's actually an underground pool. So we don't have a ton of pictures to go off, but just from these, you can see everything pretty much needs a bit of everything. Probably needs new roof, new AC. You'd want to get in there, check the foundation. I mean, you probably can't get into this one, but it probably did have foundation. Electrical, plumbing, those are just kind of unknowns at this point, but sold for $95,000. Here's another one. Sold for fast. So we're really seeing a trend here. We're seeing that houses in this area, they move very quickly when they're repaired. 184, 500, and they're all selling above market. So I do like that a lot. It's not always a hugely negative thing if there's not a ton of comps, because what that means is that if there's not a ton of comps and the comps you do see have very low days on market, it just means that stuff doesn't come up there very often and sold pretty quickly. So again, all those ones, this is another one that's sold above market price in 3 days. So this will be fixed up. I'm sure it's going to be a nice house. New tile floor, can lighting, raised ceiling. It's got granite. This is the same kind of cabinetry as the last one. They probably saw that comp, saw that it moved fast. It's a very similar style event. They put new stainless steel appliances in this one. Windows here, those, let's see if we can get some more evidence, but they could potentially be new windows. New bathroom, kept some cohesion with the granite. New surround. It looks like they didn't actually replace the HVAC. They kept the original condenser. Electrical box looks good, but it might not be new. Again, they did fence work, just like we saw in the other one, so you might have to account for that. And I'm actually unsure if ours has something at the back. We weren't clear with the pictures of that, so we'd want to verify that. And then this weird shed here, not sure what that is. It's like a sauna or something. But overall, we know that they sell very fast if the work has been done to make them nice, okay? See if we can get any more that's sold. 190, again, above market. Not using these as comps because they're brick and ours is slab, but it's just kind of an indication that the area does move very quickly. So one thing you want to keep an eye out for, just as I noticed this, is your days on market is so important. If you see a number like this, 3 with an asterisk, it actually means an asterisk is it probably was listed and then was relisted. So that's not a true long-term days on market. So I want to, if I have a bunch of those, I'm going to need to check that. And the way that you check that is you go to Property Archive and you look at the history of the property, right? So this shows you when it was listed in August of 2019. They dropped the price. It went under option pending. They backed out. It expired, terminated. So these are all your dates. Now, when they relisted it, it's under a different agent. And within 3 days, it went option pending and sold. So either this agent was just a lot better at marketing and could get it sold, or they did some kind of work and still listed it cheaper. So these are the cumulative days on market, which is 156, which is a better representation of the 3. So just as we've seen that they move fast, why did this one take a while to move? Well, it's pretty clear already. We don't know if this is after, if they did update it, but just looking at it, they did nothing with the cabinets. They did the floor. They did some backsplash. They put some can lighting in, but that's all original cabinets. This is, older. And again, we don't know if this was the same. There's some siding issues. Has a very old AC. Could have some roof work. Yeah, just dated. They modernized it some, but not enough to make it move fast like we saw with the other ones. So I know that things move fast, but we don't have a lot of comps. So here's another way that we're going to search. I'm going to clear all of this out. All right, there's a clear button here. It's going to bring you back to the beginning. And I'm just going to look in my subdivision, right? I'm going to go back 365 days. I'm going to pull up my subdivision here. Where's my tax roll? So Eastridge Terrace. I'm going to look to see. In fact, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look historically. Well, let's look historically. And as I said, we're shooting for 175 when we were looking at this property. So I'm going to do 150,000. This is in the thousands. This is the price and above in our subdivision historically. So I have 19 matches. Let's go a little bit higher. Let's say 160 and above. 10 matches. Now let's make sure those are not new builds. 1958, if you recall ours. So let's do 1970 and below. 10 matches, okay. Now let's just double check that we're still in the same correct area. And we are. And these are right in my section. So I have these 3 comps here. This one's been pretty updated. This took 59 days to sell, a little bit longer. It's roughly the same square footage, maybe a little bit bigger than ours. Sold for 170. One thing too, what you want to be checking is flood zones. Let's do a little bit bigger area and see what we get here. Let's do, so here's how you find the flood zone. You have your little layers here. And click on this. This is going to give you different schools, different flood zones. It's very, very useful to use this on all your properties when you're comping. Let's just click on flood. So here we go. A house which is in the flood zone X is not going to be the same as a 100-year flood zone, right? So one thing to know is if any part of that flood zone crosses off into your lot, you are actually within that flood zone, even if a little edge. So these are not, because this is your boundary line. But if you were this property here, you would be in the A&E flood zone, same as this one and this one. What's a big reason that it's going to not be as valuable is because your insurance is going to be through the roof. And people in the flood zone, right? We are here on Hoffer, just without having to put the address back in. So we are in the 500-year floodplain. You always want to verify with your seller or homeowner or your realtor if the house had ever flooded, right? Just to be safe. Right, so I'm just going to quickly check again if I'm missing anything. I'm going to go half a mile out. This is a good one. It's very tough to comp this one. 10902 Hoffer. All right, 29 matches. Let's do results. Actually, let's put some criteria in there. Square footage, let's get 1400 and below. Year build, 1970 and below. Stories 1. We've got 10 matches. Let's go map. We might actually have to go above that road. These are the ones, if you recall, did before. Here's some up here. I believe Hoffer actually runs. It does not. Okay. Let's check these out. See what we have here. 3-1 here. 3-1.5 here. This 1-1. This just means it has a half bath. A full 3-1 or without the half bath is going to say 3-1-0. So this is a 3-bed 1-bath. This is a 2-bed 2-bath. This is a 3-bed 1-bath. You're also looking to see if there's anything that you can do to increase the value of your property. So if you had a 3-1, but all your properties at 4-1 were selling for, dramatically more, you would be looking at, can I extend that property? Can I make that a 4-bedroom to get more value out of that? Right, like this. This is the same. This is actually smaller, I believe, than ours. Or no, it's like 20 square foot bigger, but right at the same size. They have a 4th bedroom and an extra half bath, but it's the same size. So let's have a look and see what they did. And just to help you guys out, I'm just kind of showing you what I'm doing here. You would not, if you can avoid it, don't cross these major roads, right? But just to show you on this one, let's go here. Let's take a look at this 4-bed, see how they managed with that square footage to put it in there. Also a brick house. They did a decent rehab on this one. Did it sell quickly? This one did not. Let's see. Yep, so this property is definitely not easy to comp. And you are going to find that a lot. But just to speed up this video, what we would be doing is you're basically looking for your 3 best comps, right? And you are going to narrow those down. Again, these are all fast days on market. Yeah, that one kind of weird one that took a while to sell. But what you are doing is you're working out a price per square foot. That's all what it relates to. So you would be taking these 3 square footages and dividing those by 3 and timesing that by your square footage, right? So it's a good calculation to know. It's your price per square foot. So 140, if we look here, right? Plus 153.06 plus 140.97. Then you're dividing that by 3 because you're comping 3 properties. That gives you an average $144 per square foot, and then you would be timesing that by your square footage, so 1064. 140 plus 6 plus 140.97 divided by 3 times 1064. It gives you about 154, right? Because you're a lot smaller. Now, what I would do with this one, we're going to cover in another video, because I'm not finding a lot of direct comparables, is I would be running the rental comps. And I'm also going to pull up another comp video on one that you can pretty clearly find the ARV. The reason we're doing this one is really to show you that sometimes you do have to do a lot of detective work to find that property and the value of that property. And if you can't find the true ARV, the next thing you do is you move on to the rentals. But just to kind of keep important, we went over all the characteristics of the property. That's exactly what you want to be looking for. What foundation it sits on? Is it a slab or is it pier and beam? What's the exterior? What's the year built? What's your square footage? Your lot, you definitely want to double check that. Your bedrooms and bath. Is it something that I can increase to increase the value? And how much money do I have to put in to make this one sell fast? We saw a trend, even though there's not a ton of comps, that in this area, that with a good rehab, it does have a fairly low days on market. So that is positive. But you do not have a definitive ARV on this one because of there's not much that comes up there. One last little double check. Offer, subdivision, East Ridge Terrace. Price 150 plus. And historically, everything. I'm going to pick out these 3 here. Let's get this one. Let's get this guy. One issue I'm seeing with this house is that there's not a lot that don't have that half bath. So you definitely want to, when you're walking the property, see if there's any way that you can add another half bath or a second bathroom. Right? Let's assume that you can add a second bathroom. Well, you have a 3-2 here. You have a 3 1.5 here. This one I didn't like. The 107 is kind of a weird comp. Let's take this. That's a 4-bed, 4-bath. I'm looking for these low days on market, the ones that moved really quickly. Let's look at this one on Mango, 3 1.5. Sold for cheaper, but it sold in 4 days. Did we already look at that one? Again, this sold fast. I believe we did not look at this one. So this one is dated. Has some updates with the flooring, the paint, some exterior work. The driveway's in good shape. Got a carport, no garage. We have a garage, so it's a benefit. This is the one that sold in 18 days, $1,250. This had 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, so we would have to add a bath to get here. The roof looks a little bit weathered. The pavement, the driveway looks a bit weathered. They do have a garage, like we do. New flooring, granite. Looks like the original windows. That sold for 179, 175. So they listed it for 179, and somebody offered 175 quickly, and they accepted it. So with the assumption that we would have to add an extra half bath, look at these very low days on market. Let's add those. And again, just to mention, the tax roll can be wrong sometimes, which is when you see something like this where it only has one bathroom, but all those properties which were built in the same year all have an extra half bath. Keep that in mind before you walk to the property, because maybe you do have a half bath, or maybe your square footage is off, or double check that. If it's something that doesn't look right, you can't find comps, but there's plenty of other comps that have an extra half bath, or maybe most of those houses are an extra 100 or 200 square feet. Take a note of that and verify that when you get to the property. It might be a pleasant surprise when we get there and realize that although in the tax roll it's listed as a 3-1, maybe it's a 3-1.5. So these are all in our same subdivision intersection, East Ridge Terrace. They're all roughly the same square footage, right? Right around 1,000 up to 1,250. So I'm going to use these three as the comps I've got for now. But just keeping in mind that they do have an extra half bath. So 149.27 plus, use my price per square footage, 140 plus 169.03, dividing that by 3, 152 a square foot. Now I'm going back to my square footage, 1064. That gives me about a 162, 163 ARV. So because it's hard to comp, I'm calling this one around 160. But I'm also saying that you need a decent rehab, because we do see that they move very fast, but they are fixed up. The ones that are a little bit dated, they're the ones that are sitting on the market a little bit longer. So although we were shooting for 170, 175, this is probably closer to about 160 in our value. But let's just kind of cover again all the stuff that you want to be looking out for. Make a note of this, because you can miss these things, and it can really hurt your ARV later in your value. So your year build, your foundation, do you have a garage? Do you have a pool? What is the style of your house? Are you a 1-story? Are you a 2-story? Your garage, your beds, your baths, your year build. When you're comping your property, do not cross over any major do not cross over any major roads if you can avoid it. Do not cross over any major bodies of water. Because all what happens is, whatever you're looking at, when your investor comes to buy the property, they're going to be looking at the same stuff, right? They're going to be looking at the same negative stuff. Just from the opposite of this property, there's some positives to it, but there's also some negatives to it. Negative in the fact that there's not clear and definitive comparables. You had that one at 175, which is pending. I would definitely get on the phone to that realtor. Find out when's that's closing so that you can use that as a very, very solid comp, but there's not a ton. On the flip side, it just shows that if you do work in this area, stuff does move quickly. And we're a little bit in a tricky place here, just because this is the beltway, and you're sandwiched in between here, right? So you're trying to use everything within this pocket to start with this pocket, and then spreading to this, and then if you have to, you're coming up here, and you're trying to see if the subdivision was built in the same time. But you're never crossing over anything major. So I'm avoiding crossing over here. If I was over here, if I can, I'm avoiding crossing over big bodies of water. The first thing I'm looking for is as isolated as a neighborhood as possible. You're obviously not going to cross over this freeway, Blackhawk, this over here. And sometimes you just get lucky and you get to find a whole plethora of comparables within that neighborhood, which gives a very, very firm number of what it's worth. Sometimes, like this one, you really have to do some detective work. You have to put your eyes on every possible angle. You have to look at every scenario. I'm a 3-1. My best comps are 3 1.5s and 3 2s. I'm going to verify that now when I'm about to go walk the property. If it is a 3-1 or if there's extra half bath, maybe they removed it at some point to put something else in. Um, I'm verifying the garage because that is a positive. A lot of those comps did not have a garage, right? We're pretty sure that we don't have a back deck, but we haven't, we don't know. I'm assuming it doesn't have a pool. But again, we'll find that out when we go walk the house. But now I have a very clear idea, right? Before I go walk the house, what it needs. It needs new cabinets. It needs new countertops. It needs pretty thorough updating aesthetically. A lot of those comparables, if you flick back through the video, you'll see that the AC was a little bit older. Not of them, all of them had brand new HVAC. So I would look to see if there's still life and how old my HVAC is. Same with the roof. A lot of those, the roof was a little bit weathered. So I'm going to be looking at the roof to see if I can keep that roof if there's any life left in it. And I'm trying to make my house exactly the same, quality of rehab as those ones which had a very attractive days on market, and that's essentially it. Because this one was tough to comp, and why we used it, we would then move forward towards finding a rental valuation to see if maybe we can extract more value out of a rent than what we would the ARV flip. But we're going to cross that in another video. But hopefully you guys can, the length of this video is really just going to show you how you're navigating around Matrix and how you're going to use it. Continually watch it and just get very familiar with all the functionalities of it, because a lot of running your comps is detective work to see what you can find. So I think we'll conclude this first comping video here. Comping is one of, if not the two most important numbers that you're coming up with when you're looking at a property. So this is imperative to making sure you put the correct value on there and what the correct rehab is. You need to know the comps to be able to derive your repair value, because if we would have gone into all these properties and seen them selling at 175 very quickly, low days on market with very little rehab, then we know that we can reduce our rehab costs slightly. But because these are all pretty well fixed up with low days on market, we know that we do need to put those things in there. And we're going to know that now when we walk the property. We feel more confident, a little more confident on this one when we do walk our property to basically write down exactly what it's going to take. So keep in tune for the following videos on how to run rental comps. And we're also going to run some that are a little bit more cookie cutter, a little bit easier to run. Show how you take your 3 best comps in that area. You're adding those together. You're dividing them by the number of comps. So say 3. Then you're timesing that average price per square foot by your square footage.